Hello, debt warriors, and welcome back to another episode of Millennial Debt Domination. I'm your host, Katie O'Shea. Today, we're diving into a topic that impacts far too many people: financial illiteracy. Simply put, financial literacy means understanding key money concepts like budgeting, saving, paying bills on time, managing debt, planning for major life goals like homeownership, investing for retirement, and recognizing financial scams. These are essential life skills, yet many individuals lack this basic knowledge, which can lead to financial instability. In this episode, we'll talk about how to overcome financial illiteracy and take control of your financial future. Joining me is Michelle Campbell, a passionate financial literacy advocate and founder of the nonprofit #Stability. Her organization supports individuals facing homelessness by providing essential resources and financial education. Michelle and I will discuss the long-term impact of financial illiteracy, how to start building money management skills, what role schools should play in financial education, and so much more. Now let's dive into my conversation with Michelle. Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about overcoming financial illiteracy for a stronger future. So to get started, can you let my listeners know what exactly is financial illiteracy and how prevalent is it in the U.S. today?
So for me, financial literacy has two parts to it. The first part I like to describe as just knowing your numbers. And so that is, how much do you make? What is your budget? What is your credit score even? And then the second part is the tools that it takes to, once you know your numbers, how to build on that. So then that is investing, that's saving for retirement, that's savings, that's growing your money.
Basically, if you were financially illiterate, you wouldn't necessarily have knowledge of any of these.
No, you probably wouldn't be aware of how much debt you have, the reality of it, how much, exactly how to make a budget and then work with it and make it work for you. You might not even know your credit score exactly. You might not know what a FICO is. And then the other side, you might not know anything about investing in all the different assets that you can invest in, what they mean, how they grow, when you can pull them out.
How does not knowing any of this impact individuals and families over time?
It's hugely impactful because I really do feel like the foundation of a better life overall and just feeling secure and stable in your life is being financially literate. It's not about making more money necessarily. It's about knowing how money works, what kind of money you have, knowing your numbers, how it relates to money, and then how to spend it, how to grow it. So if you don't know those things and you're not from a background or you don't have a family or friends or anything that's talking about it, you're just kind of stuck.
And that can maybe impact your retirement planning and wealth building. How does that impact those future goals?
First, with me firsthand, I experienced just how it impacted my overall life. I was severely depressed because I didn't understand money. I didn't understand my money. I didn't know my numbers. I didn't know how to make it work for me. And then going further, then yes, I mean, you don't have that stability that you need in retirement or to build a future off of.
How does financial instability impact mental health and self-worth?
It can make you just feel worthless. I have firsthand experience of that because when you have a feeling of lack, that is directly connected to your mental health. So for me, plunged me into a deep state of depression that just was a never ending cycle. Just could not find a way out. Felt like I was the only one in the world going through it. Didn't really know what I was working with. Didn't know how to fix it. So it definitely impacts your mental health.
And then not being in the right mental mind state can impact your finances in turn because it's hard to even manage your life, let alone your
Correct.
finances. What are some of the most common misconceptions people have about money management?
I think the first misconception is just that the idea that having more, earning more will fix everything. And to me, that's not the answer, because if you don't know about money and you don't recognize your relationship that you have with money, it's not about having more. If you have more, it's still going to end up messed up. And I have firsthand experience with that too. I had a bad relationship with money. And so more kept me in that same cycle of debt.
I was going to say sometimes more money, more
Right.
problems at the
Well,
end
that's
of the
what they
day.
say.
Yeah, because, you might have the money, but you might not be investing it or doing what you're supposed to be doing it for your
Correct.
future. How can someone build good financial habits if they were never taught basic money management?
The first step is just being honest, knowing and admitting to yourself, holding yourself accountable that you might not be financially stable, or you might not be as financially stable as you think you are, and knowing your numbers, ordering that annual credit report, putting a budget together. Or, I mean, there are endless resources out there now for budgeting and different methods, but it's really just about knowing your numbers. You have to know how much you have. You have to know what your absolutes are, and then you are able to then better budget the rest of the money. And then in turn with that comes knowing your credit score, knowing where you are with that, so that if you're somebody that would like to leverage credit, you can either get approved or work on it to get things like houses and cars that we all need.
What are some resources available for people? I know there's like podcasts nowadays.
Right. The first, with just knowing where you are financially, there is annualcreditreport.com. And that's so easy. It's the law where we all are entitled to a free credit report. And that kind of holds you accountable and forces your accountability with just facing your numbers, seeing where you are. And then with budgeting, depending on, there are so many different types of budgets and ways to budget. I like the concept of the 50-50. And so, of course, like 50% of your income goes towards the things that you just absolutely you need. Shelter, you need food, you need your vehicle, you need things like that. You can't go without utilities. And then the other 50% is divided by 20-30. And so then there's 30% going towards the things that you just need for life, that aren't really, you wouldn't die without them, but that you need them. And then 20% investing or saving,
Yeah.
saving first. You definitely need a emergency fund before investing to grow.
Yeah, I always suggest that have that emergency fund because if not, that your budget could be completely destroyed if one thing happens.
Correct.
What role does mindset play in overcoming financial challenges and how can people shift their mindset?
I feel like most of the time we operate out of shame, and that shame is just detrimental. It can lead you to not admitting that you aren't financially stable or you don't feel financially stable. And then the other side of it is just not a willingness to ask for help. I really do believe that we are all connected by the one thing that we won't talk about. We won't talk about money. You know, how many times in meeting friends and going out to lunch or anything like that are you talking about, so what's your credit score? Not to be invasive about somebody's business, but just discussing it.
It's always been like a taboo kind of topic to talk about, especially with friends and
Right,
such.
right.
But you never know. They could be going through the same thing as you. So
Exactly. So, for me, it's definitely the shame, and then not holding yourself accountable, not admitting that there is a problem. There are those things that are all in your head related that are holding a lot of us back.
what practical steps can someone take today to begin improving their financial situation, even if they're starting from scratch?
So, starting from scratch, that first thing is just holding yourself accountable, being ready to take this endeavor. However long you've been in this situation, it probably most likely did not happen overnight. And so, just being okay with that, it's going to take time. But first, you have to want to fix the problem and be committed to it. And then I would say just ordering your credit report, knowing where you are, because if you don't know how much debt you're dealing with, you don't know the challenge to get through it. It might not be as bad as you think. Who knows? I mean, if it's been 7 years or more, there are companies that probably deleted things from your report that then you don't have to address. And then back to knowing your numbers, writing down what it is that you bring in after tax and what your absolutes are, because then that might prevent some like just unconscious spending. It's so easy when things are, $2, $3, $5, $10, and you feel like you can afford it, but then all of that adds up to hundreds of dollars that you could have saved or that should have been going somewhere else.
So basically kind of lay everything out, take a
Right,
look at your landscape
right,
first. That should be like your first step.
right.
What are some key financial topics everyone should understand regardless of their income?
So you should definitely understand the financial jargon. You should know what a budget is. You should know what a FICO score is. You should know all of the different, well, later, you should know all of the different financial instruments in investing. And so the difference between the different IRAs and ETFs, those basic just kind of jargon. But I would say just 101, know what a budget is, know what a FICO score is, and that will take you long further than all the other retirement and everything else that you can add on once you just get that stability under your feet.
And I think it's important to also say, like, this is definitely regardless of your income. Because as we mentioned before, the more money situation, you could have all this money and not have a budget.
Correct.
And then it goes away so fast and you have no idea where it went because you didn't have a budget.
Right, right. There's a lot of accounts now I notice that will almost try to categorize your spending. And so it's smart to look at that. I know that in this day and age, we're all doing e-statements and nobody's getting bills, but you're still able to access it online. And so just kind of to know your numbers, know where they fall, know where you're spending money that you could maybe cut back.
Because especially in this day and age, there are just so many things that are on auto pay
Hmm.
that you might not even know how much the price was raised from when you originally looked at it. Because I just looked at a subscription I had, and I swear I signed up, and it was under $10 a month, and now it's over $20 a month.
Yeah,
So there's all these factors that you should look into and take into
for
account.
sure.
So, what role should schools play in improving financial literacy? And do you think financial education should be required?
So yes, I'm going to answer it in reverse. Schools need to start early. I feel like I don't remember learning about anything finance related, even from how to just write a check. I know that that's, a lot of people don't really write checks anymore, but write a check, educate the dangers of overdrafting your account and what that means. Teach about credit scores and the FICO score and how they all come together and what that later means when you're trying to acquire assets. Teach about budgeting. We were all given a piggy bank growing up. And, at least and I feel like the majority of individuals were probably only saving up for something and not really learning about you save and what compound interest is, and if we invest it here and just let it sit, then it's going to grow, and not just saving the $10 so that you could go and buy something at the store that you really wanted. So I feel like schools do need to start just at the 101 level. I feel like if we're not getting it, a lot of our time, think about how much time kids spend in school. If you're not getting it at home because your parents aren't financially literate, then and you're not getting it at school, then here you are. I can definitely relate. This was a firsthand experience of being dropped off at college, and there are endless everyday credit card companies in the student union letting you sign up for credit cards, and all you know is buy now pay later. But what does that mean? What is APR? What is interest? So if you're not getting it at home, I think it should definitely come from the schools. There are right now, I've recently learned that there are almost like video game type budgeting tools and games for kids to play to start at just that early age of making it become conversation and making it fun as well. Because once you understand it, it's not so intimidating. We're all typically intimidated by the unknown and the things that we don't know.
Brought up a lot of good points there, especially about just little things like writing a check that they don't teach you and a budget and everything. And with the credit cards, it is so true about college because I had no idea even going into college about it. Why I don't even know why. Why would I need credit? Why would I need
Right.
this? It's no. Yeah, and that's like the tender age where people are making mistakes and opening a bunch of credit cards and charging, and they don't realize they have to pay off. You see online on TikTok or whatever, people saying, I just thought I didn't know I had to pay it off.
Well, I knew I
So,
had to pay it off, but I'm still confused on how the application was able to go through without a job. You
right,
don't
that
even
is
have
true
to have a
actually.
job.
Yeah, or they'll say, "Oh, it's a student credit
Right.
card or whatever," and that's how it goes through. And yeah, it's that's how a lot of people got in trouble. So if we had some sort of financial education about it in high school or even earlier,
Right. Balancing a checkbook. I mean, I know that we don't really use checkbooks anymore, but still just balancing it. Know what your balance is, subtracting from it, knowing how much you have. I don't remember learning that either. And I knew that it wasn't just swipe your card and everything is, it'll always go through, but just knowing your numbers. And so I feel like with kids, kids are sponges and can learn very quickly, interpret very quickly. And so that is a nice place to start to then have adults that at least have a clue about credit and APRs and interest rates, things like that.
exactly, because I feel like a lot of adults are just getting a crash
Right,
course way too late in life.
right, right. When you're in trouble.
What advice do you have for parents who want to teach their children about money, but they lack the financial knowledge themselves?
So just start at a really basic level. I'm not going to say that my mom was particularly financially literate, but I do remember sitting down with her when she was balancing her checkbook. We knew how much money we had. I remember her writing grocery lists and it had a budget on how much we could spend on groceries. Back then, we were couponing, and I took that all the way through college. And I still, when I have time, coupon today. I think now it's like a game and it's fun to save money. And there's apps now that you can use your coupons with and then get money from the app for buying certain things. But just at a very basic level, don't keep your child out of the conversation when it comes about money. They don't need to know how much you make or anything, but they do need to realize this is how much we have. These are the things that we have to have. And so this is how much is left. And I think that that understanding will give them some perspective when you say that you can't do something or not right now, or you can't go to whatever, you can't go to Chick-fil-A. All kids love Chick-fil-A. You can't go to Chick-fil-A today because we ultimately want to go to this other place. And so to be able to do that, then we can't spend this little bit of money now.
How can workplaces contribute to financial education for employees? Do you think that's their job, or what do you
I
think?
think it would be helpful for workplaces to get involved. Through my financial services company, I'm always just amazed at how little companies tell employees. And the first time that they're hearing anything, even how their paycheck works, the difference between your gross and net income, is from me. So I feel like I don't know how many companies out there would be willing to have like a separate financial department, but I think that definitely in the positions of human resources that it would be valuable to educate employees on especially things like companies that give out bonuses, whether they're taxed or not, if they're not taxed up front, how they're going to be taxed, exactly how the company benefit plans work with 401ks and IRAs and what that ultimately means, because there's just so many of us that just sign up. Everybody said you should sign up, so you sign up and you don't know actually how it works and what it means for you.
Especially with a lot of young people when they get their first job, they don't even know what a 401k
Right.
is and anything, but then they're just, you should sign up, but they
Right.
don't know. So I think that's a good aspect to definitely give education on, is the retirement plan that the company offers.
Right. And I think that a lot of companies would benefit if we reach out to those that do know. There are so many corporations where this is what they do. We all have our own expertise and specialties on purpose. So, those big banks and investment firms of America, those would be great partnerships, not just for schools, but just for other companies to build those partnerships and those relationships. I mean, we're all interconnected, whether we like to believe it or not, and we can all benefit from what someone else knows. You're not supposed to know it all.
How can listeners stay motivated on their journey to financial literacy and independence? Because as we kind of talked about earlier, it could take a while. How do we stay motivated?
Right. Just know that it's not going to happen overnight, and be there for the game. I mean, even if you are going to college to earn a degree, you're not going to get it in a week or a month or sometimes even a year, depending on what you're going to school for. And so to become fully 360-degree financially stable is not going to happen overnight, but your willingness and just the small things that you see. That's why keeping a budget can be so inspirational, to see that. I remember when I didn't think that I could even save $20 a week, and forcing myself to do it no matter what. Then eventually that number started to grow, and that inspired me to do more. So just, rewarding yourself for the small things, something that is maybe a insignificant habit, like that you spend money on, two, three, $4. Try just going one day without it, or 2 days without it, and you'll see how that money is building. And start small, reward yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. And just know that this is something that is lifelong. Once you do repair your credit, once you are on a sound budget, once you do have savings, once you are investing, this is still something that you have to maintain.
Michelle, do you have any projects you're working on or anything you'd like to give my listeners about? Where can they find you and everything?
Yeah, so I have a financial services company, Tax Shell, and we encompass everything under the financial umbrella. And so, first, starting with budgeting and debt and credit, those are like the big three topics that I think affect us all. But then we also expand to investments and retirement, growing wealth, things like that. But through that, I have a nonprofit that helps individuals free of charge. For all of our programs and seminars and videos are absolutely free, just to educate. I've always felt empowered to let anyone know the things that I know. I'm definitely not a gatekeeper. And so that's kind of what inspired that. Is, me knowing it and keeping it to myself does nothing. And so it inspired me to reach out to help others, just to bring awareness. I think sometimes we operate in a world of just going through the motions, just going through a cycle. You're going to work, you're paying bills, you're hanging out with friends, and it's kind of out of sight, out of mind until things blow up. And I just don't want things to blow up for you. The awareness at least can prepare you or soften the blow if you do have a challenge that affects you financially.
Michelle, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I enjoyed talking to you.
Absolutely. It was so nice to be here. Nice to meet you as well.
Yes, thank you. Financial illiteracy affects adults across all walks of life, but the good news is that it's never too late to start learning. Whether you're tuning into a podcast, using a budgeting app, or reading up on personal finance tips, the most important step is simply getting started. As you build your financial knowledge, don't keep it to yourself. Share what you've learned with others. There's no shame in facing financial challenges. In fact, many people are going through the same struggles. By opening up, you not only help yourself, but you also empower those around you. Remember, financial literacy is a journey, not a race. Stay motivated, celebrate your progress, and keep moving forward, one small win at a time. And with that, we wrap up another episode of Millennial Debt Domination. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. And if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rate and review us there. I'll talk to you next time, Millennials, Gen Z, and everyone else tuning in. Bye.